when Ethan pretended not to know me at Rachel's birthday party after 3 months of secret dates. I felt my heart shatter in front of everyone. But sometimes the universe has a twisted sense of justice. By the end of that night, he'd be begging for my attention and I'd be laughing. If you've ever been publicly humiliated by someone you trusted, hit that like button right now and stick around, because this story gets wild. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. Don't forget to subscribe for more dramatic, true stories. Let me take you back to where it all began. Because you need to understand just how deep this betrayal cut. 3 months. I was sitting in my usual corner booth at Morrison's coffee house, laptop open, drowning in psychology textbooks, when this guy slid into the seat across from me. Dark hair falling perfectly over his forehead, this crooked smile that made my stomach flip, and those eyes. Those green eyes that seem to see right through me mind. If I sit here, everywhere else is taken, Ethan said, and I looked around the half-empty cafe, knowing full well he was lying. But something about the way he said it, like he was nervous, like maybe he'd been watching me for weeks, and finally worked up the courage to approach. It was intoxicating. That first conversation lasted for hours. We talked about everything and nothing, from our shared love of old horror movies to our dreams of traveling Europe after graduation. When he walked me to my dorm that night, the autumn air crisp against our skin, he stopped under the old oak tree and kissed me like I was something precious. My heart practically exploded right there on the sidewalk. What were the most incredible 3 months of my life? Ethan would text me, "Good morning," before I even opened my eyes. Send me random pictures of things that reminded him of me. A golden retriever that had my smile, he said, or a sunset that matched the color of my hair. We'd meet at this little diner 20 minutes off campus, where nobody we knew would see us, sharing fries and dreams and secrets that I'd never told another soul. The secrecy felt romantic at first, like we had this beautiful bubble that was just ours. When I questioned it, he'd pull me close and whisper things like, "I want to keep you all to myself for a little while longer," or "What we have is too special to share with the world just yet." He made it sound like protecting our relationship, not hiding it. I was so naive, but there were moments, small ones, that I convinced myself didn't matter. Like when we'd run into people from school and he'd suddenly step away from me, create distance. Or how he never posted anything about us on social media, while I was dying to show the world how happy I was when I brought it up. He'd kiss my forehead and say, "You know I'm private about these things, Brooke." It doesn't mean anything. So, when Rachel invited us both to her 21st birthday party, I was over the moon, finally. A chance to be together in public, to dance with him, to laugh with our friends as a couple. When I mentioned it to Ethan, something flickered across his face. Panic, maybe, but it was gone so fast. I thought I'd imagined it. "We should probably keep things low-key," he said, not meeting my eyes. You know how Rachel gets at parties. Drama everywhere the night of Rachel's party. I spent 2 hours getting ready. I'm talking full glamour mode. The black dress that hugged me in all the right places. The one Ethan said made me look like a movie star when I wore it to our secret dinner last month. I curled my hair until it fell in perfect waves. Down my back, applied my makeup with surgical precision. This was going to be our debut. Our moments, and I wanted to look absolutely stunning. Walking into Rachel's apartment, I felt electric with anticipation. The music was pumping, people were everywhere, and for the first time in 3 months, I was about to be at the same party as my boyfriend. My friends immediately surrounded me, Jade, Mia, and Quinn, all wanting to know who this mysterious guy was that I'd been so secretive about. "Come on, Brooke, you've been glowing for months," Jade laughed, handing me a drink. "When do we finally get to meet Prince Charming tonight?" I said, unable to contain my smile. "He should be here any minute." And then I saw him. Ethan walked through the door, looking absolutely gorgeous in that navy button-down that I'd helped him pick out last week. My heart did that familiar flutter, and I felt the surge of pride. That beautiful, amazing man was mine. I excused myself from my friends and walked over, my smile so wide it hurt my cheeks. "Hey, handsome," I said, reaching up to straighten his collar, like I'd done a dozen times before. Ethan looked at me like I was a complete stranger. Not just casual indifference, complete cold blankness, like he was genuinely confused about why some random girl was touching him. "Sorry," he said, stepping back from me. "Do we know each other?" The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually stumbled backward, my drink nearly slipping from my hand. Around us, conversation started to quiet down. People were staring. My friends were watching from across the room, with confused expressions. "Ethan," I whispered, hoping maybe he was playing some kind of joke. "It's me, Brooke." He tilted his head slightly, like he was trying to place me right. "You're in my psych class or something." "Listen, sorry, but I'm actually looking for someone." That someone turned out to be Sienna, Rachel's roommate with the perfect blonde hair and legs. That went on for miles. I watched in complete horror as Ethan's entire face lit up when he spotted her. Across the room, the same smile he used to give me. The same spark in his eyes. Except now, it was directed at someone else, and I was standing there like a ghost. He walked away from me, mid-conversation. Just turned around and left me standing there, while he crossed to wrap his arms around Sienna's waist. I heard her laugh, saw the way she melted into him, watched him whisper something in her ear that made her giggle and blush. My friends appeared at my side instantly. "What the hell was that?" Mia demanded. "Who does that guy think he is?" But I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. 3 months of secret kisses, intimate conversations, and promises of a future together. And he was acting like none of it had ever happened. Worse than that, he was making me look like some delusional girl who'd imagined the whole thing. I mumbled some excuse to my friends about needing air, and practically ran to Rachel's bathroom, locking the door behind me. The second I was alone, everything I'd been holding back came flooding out. Hot tears streamed down my face, ruining the makeup I'd spent so long perfecting. My hands were shaking as I gripped the marble countertop, staring at myself in the mirror. "What is wrong with me?" I whispered to my reflection. "How could I be so stupid?" The girl staring back at me looked broken. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, eyes red and swollen, but underneath all that pain, something else was building. Something that felt like fire in my chest. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to think clearly through the emotional hurricane. 3 months. 3 months of my life I'd given to someone who could look me in the eye and pretend I didn't exist. 3 months of believing I wasn't good enough to be seen with in public, while he paraded around with someone else, like she was a prize the more I thought about it. The angrier I became. I started pacing the small bathroom, my heels clicking against the tile. "This is not how this ends," I said out loud, my voice getting stronger. "I am not running home crying because some doesn't have the decency to break up with me like a human being." The old Brooke would have called an Uber and cried herself to sleep. The old Brooke would have convinced herself that maybe she'd misunderstood something, that maybe there was a good explanation for why the man who'd been texting her love songs 3 hours ago was now acting like she was invisible. But standing in that bathroom, something shifted inside me. All those little moments I'd ignored came flooding back, with perfect clarity, the way he'd scanned the room before kissing me goodbye. How he'd not once posted a single photo of us together. The panic in his eyes when mutual friends would approach us at the coffee shop. It wasn't about privacy or taking things slow. It was about having his options open. "You know what, Ethan?" I said to the mirror, wiping the last of my tears away. "Two can play this game." I fixed my makeup with steady hands, touching up my lipstick and smoothing my hair. The woman looking back at me now looked determined. Fierce, even if he wanted to pretend he didn't know me. Fine, if he wanted to act single. Well, maybe it was time. I remembered what it felt like to be single, too. I took a deep breath and opened the bathroom door, stepping back into the party with my head held high. The music seemed louder now, the laughter brighter, like I was experiencing everything with new senses. I scanned the room, looking for my friends, but my attention was caught by someone else entirely. Cameron Mitchell was leaning against the kitchen counter, looking surprisingly good in a simple white t-shirt and dark jeans. I'd known Cameron for years through mutual friends, but I'd never really noticed him before. Maybe it was because I'd been so focused on Ethan. It was because Cameron had always been the quiet one, the observer rather than the performer. But now, seeing standing him there with genuine concern in his dark eyes, as he watched me emerge from my breakdown, something clicked. Cameron had always been kind to me. Always remembered little details about my life that even my closest friends sometimes forgot. "I'm better now," I said, looking directly into Cameron's eyes. And for the first time all night, I meant it. "Actually, I'm wondering if you'd like to dance with me." The surprise that flickered across his face was genuine, followed quickly by something that looked like pleasure. "I'd love to," he said, setting down his drink and extending his hand to me. As we walked to the makeshift dance floor in Rachel's living room, I caught sight of Ethan across the room. He was still with Sienna, but his attention seemed split, his eyes darting around the party. When his gaze landed on me, walking hand in hand with Cameron, I saw something I'd never seen before. Confusion, then what looked suspiciously like jealousy. Cameron was a surprisingly good dancer, confident but not showy, leading me through the music with gentle pressure on my lower back. "I have to admit," he said, his voice close to my ear, "I've wanted an excuse to talk to you for months." "Really?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "Why didn't you?" He gave me a look that was equal parts amused and incredulous. "Because you've been completely off limits. That guy you were seeing made it pretty clear. You were taken." My heart stopped. "Wait, what do you mean?" Cameron's expression shifted as he realized he'd said something significant. "Ethan, right. He's mentioned you a few times. Always talked about this girl he was seeing. How crazy about him she was. Said her name was Brooke." The world seemed to tilt around me. Ethan had been talking about me to his friends. Bragging, maybe. But then why the public denial? What exactly did he say honestly? Nothing too flattering. Cameron looked uncomfortable now, like he wished he hadn't brought it up. "Look, maybe we shouldn't." "No more, please." I need to know Cameron's side. His hand tightening protectively on my waist. "He called you his sure thing. Said you were sweet, but way too clingy. Always wanting to make things official. He liked that you were low maintenance, though. No pressure, no always drama. Available when he wanted company." Each word hit me like a slap. 3 months of what I thought was love. And to him, I was just convenient. A backup plan. The room felt like it was spinning. But instead of collapsing, I felt something crystalline and sharp form in my chest. "Dance with me," I said firmly, pulling Cameron closer as we moved together. I became acutely aware of how different this felt from dancing with Ethan. Cameron paid attention to me, responded to my movements, made me feel like I was the only person in the room, and I made sure we were positioned where Ethan had a perfect view of everything. It didn't take long for the strategy to work out. Of the corner of my eye, I could see Ethan's attention completely diverted from Sienna. He kept looking over his jaw, clenched, his smile becoming more and more forced. When Cameron spun me around, laughing at something I'd whispered in his ear, Ethan actually stepped away from Sienna. Mid-conversation, "He's watching us," Cameron murmured, his lips barely brushing my ear. "Good," I replied, letting my fingers trail along Cameron's shoulder. Let him watch, but then Cameron did something that surprised me completely. He stopped dancing and cupped my face in his hands, looking at me seriously. "Brooke, I need you to know something. This isn't just revenge for me. I've been interested in you for a long time." The sincerity in his voice made my breath catch. Was someone willing to be honest about his feelings? To treat me like I mattered? The contrast with Ethan couldn't have been starker. Ethan's voice was tight with barely controlled anger, but I stepped forward before Cameron could respond. "Actually, we're having a really great conversation," I said, my voice steady and calm. "Aren't we, Cameron?" Cameron's arm tightened around my waist, and I could feel his amusement at the situation. "The best conversation I've had all night?" He agreed, his eyes never leaving mine. Ethan's mask was slipping fast. Gone was the cool indifference he'd shown me earlier, replaced by something raw and possessive. "You don't even know her man," he said to Cameron, his voice getting louder. This isn't what it looks like, really? Cameron raised an eyebrow. Because it looks like I'm talking to an amazing woman. Way better than whatever game you're playing. That's when Ethan made his biggest mistake. He grabbed my arm, pulling me away from Cameron, with enough that force people around us started to notice. We need to talk, he hissed in my ear. Now I let him drag me toward the hallway. But not because I was intimidated, because I wanted this conversation. I wanted to look him in the eye when I destroyed him. What the hell do you think you're doing? Ethan demanded once we were alone. His grin blazing with an anger that would have terrified me 3 hours ago. I'm having fun at a party. I said simply, you know the things single people do. Single, he laughed. But it sounded forced. Brooke. Come on, don't be ridiculous. We both know what this is. No more ethical. I really don't, because according to you, we don't know each other. Remember? You made that very clear in front of everyone. For the first time. I saw something that might have been shame flicker across his face, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by that entitled arrogance I was beginning to recognize as his true nature. Look, I can explain that it's complicated. It's not complicated at all. I interrupted. You're embarrassed by me. You've been keeping me as your secret backup plan while you shop around for someone better. Well, congratulations. You found her, so why do you care what I do? Because you're mine, he said, and the possessiveness in his voice made my skin crawl. That's when Cameron appeared at the end of the hallway. And he wasn't alone, he was holding his phone, and the look on his face was grim. Brooke, he called out. You need to see this. Ethan went pale. Cameron, don't. But Cameron was already walking toward us. His phone extended, I thought. You should know what kind of person you've been. Wasting your time. The screen showed a group chat that made my blood run. Cold messages from Ethan to his friends. Dated from just 2 weeks ago. Messages about me. She's so clingy. Always wanting to hang out. One message. Read good things. She's temporary low. Another one. Brooke thinks we're exclusive. Cute, but delusional. And the one that broke my heart completely. She's convenient for now. But definitely not girlfriend material. Way too desperate, I stared at the messages. Each word a dagger, but instead of crumbling, I felt something cold and powerful settle in my chest. This wasn't love I'd been feeling. It was an illusion created by a master manipulator. I handed the phone back to Cameron and looked at Ethan, who was standing there like a deer in headlights. You know what the funny thing is, Ethan? I said, my voice deadly calm. I actually thought I loved you. I thought what we had was real. But you're right about one thing. I was desperate enough to accept crumbs from someone who saw me as entertainment. I turned to Cameron, who was watching me, with something that looked like admiration. Would you like to get out of here? I asked. I think I've had enough of this party. As we walked away, I heard Ethan call my name. But I didn't turn around. Because for the first time in 3 months, I was walking towards something real, instead of chasing something that was never there. 6 months later, Cameron and I are still together. And Ethan, he's still playing the same games with different girls. But here's the real karma. Rachel told me he asks about me at every party. Some people never learn that when you don't value what you have, someone else will. If this story reminded you that you deserve better than someone who hides you, smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me about a time you took back your power. I read every single one, and subscribe, because I've got stories
more.
About standing up for yourself,